The 2023 NBA draft is on the horizon, and a brand new batch of players will be entering the league, making millions. So why not talk some finances? Hello, everyone. I'm Jabbar Young, senior writer here at Forbes, and in a minute, I'll be talking to Goldman Sachs' Nicole Ross, and we'll be talking about what athletes should look out for, incoming athletes, as they navigate the world of professional sports, making millions of dollars. Her career in wealth management at Goldman, spent 23 years there. That and more. Nicole Ross of Goldman Sachs right now. Private wealth management, a regional head and head of sports entertainment solutions, right? Define that role.
Well, it's all client focused. My
Yeah.
role is to first and foremost serve the need of our clients, and those clients include some of the most interesting people in the world. I do that in the capacity as the partner leading the private wealth management business for the New York region, and also the founder and lead of our sports and entertainment solutions team.
Yeah. Now, what does that sports side entail?
It really is allows us to be the go-to person for the athletes with whom we work. And it's been a journey that we started about 5 years ago. And we have the privilege of working with athletes across all leagues. We have the privilege of working with them before draft all the way through multiple contract extensions. And
Mm-hmm.
the role that we play as part of their team is really to act as part of the family office and an advisor, giving them a broad range of advice and services.
Yeah.
And
Now,
so
listen,
it's great.
yeah, 23 years at Goldman Sachs, right? You have to tell me what that explain that longevity for me, because very rarely, especially nowadays, do you see people, right, spend even more than 5 years, maybe 5 months at a company, and here you are 23
Yeah.
years at Goldman. Like, what's the key to that longevity?
The key is continuing to have a great time and be in a place where I feel like we're offering the best solution for clients. So I came to Goldman originally, starting my career at school at Hampton University. While I was there, I had an opportunity to have my first job on Wall Street, which allowed me to see that there was a conversation happening in rooms, and there weren't a lot of people there who looked like me. So I
Mm-hmm.
kind of matched my love for finance and economics to a path on Wall Street where I've always been in a seat of being focused on individuals. And
Yeah.
so from my days at Columbia Business School to my time at Goldman, it has really been about serving clients, being in a place that is really challenging, having a tremendous amount of support, and being surrounded by who I think are some of the smartest people in the universe.
Yeah, I love going to Columbia. I mean, the Columbia University is, when I get invited to go talk there to the students, journalism students, I love going on that campus. I mean, it's the perfect college experience. They got the library, everybody's outside, and I'm like, I didn't get this in college. Like, were you
Yeah.
able to enjoy that, or were you so focused on the business school that you wanted to just get in and get out?
I had every amount of fun that I could while I was
That's
in
good.
business school. You
That's
have to
good.
go back and see the new business school. I don't know if you've seen it recently, but it is a far cry from the experience we had when we were there. Some of my best friends, strongest relationships, and best memories are from my time at Columbia. I happened to be chosen as the president of the Black Business Students Association while I was there. And recently, we've been bringing community together from all parts of the world. So it's been a good reminder of how enriching that experience continues to be.
Yeah. Well, listen, so much to get to in only a little bit of time, but we get back into your career, and coming up through Goldman, from Hampton, but 2023 NBA draft is coming up, and listen,
Yes.
we're months removed from the NFL draft, where you saw a whole bunch of players come in, and I remember back then when the NFL draft was going on, and it was a headline where you said that the incoming players should think like CEOs. Is that the same advice you would give to the incoming NBA
Absolutely.
players?
Absolutely. I mean, we have the privilege of having experience and perspective that allows us to work with really the wealthiest and most influential people on the
Hmm.
planet. And whether that is a 30 or 40-year-old who sold a technology company that he spent 20 years building, or an athlete who spent 20 years crafting, working on crafting their skill, this moment in time is really tremendous. And when you think about the CEO who has grown up and experienced different types of advisors and had decades to understand how to how to build a team, how to think about decisions, and you compare that to a 25-year-old and the advice that they may be getting, it's very different. And so I encourage the guys to really think like a CEO when they're making decisions about their team, when they're thinking about their brand, and when they are deciding about their future. Because every client with whom we work has spent a lifetime being really successful at something, and that is typically not being really successful at managing their wealth. And so they have to have a right team around them to allow them to have a group of folks who understand their interest and have experience navigating some of the challenges they'll have, and can allow them to focus on the things that are highest and best use for of their time, and have other folks with experience who are supporting them.
For young athletes who may get drafted or may not get drafted in any sport, not just the NBA, who could be watching this, who may not understand what you mean when you say think like a CEO. Listen, you're around one of the more known CEOs, and David Solomon, CEO of Goldman, right? And I'll ask you about him later on. But how does a CEO think? How does he think that you can pass that advice on to these young players? Because they may not know how a CEO thinks.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. A CEO thinks about every decision they make, not as a decision that impacts today, but a decision that impacts the future. Yeah. So it's really making decisions with the end in mind. And so, for example, when players are coming into the league, when they are deciding how they want to be represented, deciding how they want to create a schedule or a budget or plan, they're doing that with expertise and input from people who have the experience and the knowledge to advise them. And so it's not this view that I have to make all the decisions informed by my own experiences or by the experiences of those people they trust. It's great to have people around you that you like and trust, but you actually need to have people around you as well who have the expertise that you don't. And that's what I think CEOs do very well.
Yeah. And listen, when you say that, it reminds me of one of my favorite books, right? From Good to Great. That book, if you read it, it teaches you how CEOs always surround themselves with great teams. They never use the word I. It's always we. There's certain things that CEOs do that are they're very technical. But again, surrounding yourself with a great team is one of them. And I would assume Goldman is a great team, right?
Goldman is a great team.
Right.
Goldman is a great team because I think we spend so much time listening to what our clients need and creating solutions that tap into the breadth of our resources. There's really nothing around the globe that we can't help our clients think through or get access to.
Absolutely. In 2021, one of the things that was really interesting to me is Ernst & Young, they did that report on professional athletes who alleged that nearly $600 million was stolen from them over the last 15 years. You're talking about it from a span of 2004 to 2019. Does that figure, when you first heard it, did that surprise you at all? And it's obviously saying that athletes still have money problems. If not the money problems, they have trust problems, and that results in losing money.
Yeah. It was disappointing, but not shocking. And the reason I say that is because when I think about the way that athletes want to spend their time, right? I just want to work. I just want to do the work. I just want to spend time on the court, on the field, whatever it may be. And that is their priority. And I think what happens too often is the people that they're relying on to have their best interest in mind don't always show up in that way. And it's not specific to this industry, but the numbers are so big when you think about fraud in this case. And there are too many stories to reference on how, as people were learning, they were taken advantage of. I mean, can you imagine when you and I were 25 years old, if someone said, here's $10 million.
What are you talking about? I still am 25, Nicole. I am 25.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. You look 26. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
But can you imagine what that is like, and the amount of pressure, all the objectives you have? You want to take care of the people who took care of you. And so I think that it is this, most of us have a journey. Most of us have time to get there. And when you don't, and you don't know the right questions to ask, or you don't know how to find the information, and you haven't taken the time to appreciate, yes, I know my first job is to earn my income, but if I really want to create wealth, then I've got to pay attention to this. And
Yeah.
you can't delegate that away, unfortunately.
There
So
are
trust
two
but verify.
athletes. Yeah, and great stuff, And again, trusting is a key to all of that. And I've been in locker rooms. I've covered the Spurs, San Antonio Spurs for 5 years. Covered the Portland Trailblazers. I've seen young players, and they get into situations they don't trust a lot of people. A lot of people are coming after them, and I think it's going so fast, so quick. The money's coming in, and it leaves so fast. And so obviously, putting a good team around you is critical. But there's also the thing that some athletes just have to force themselves to be frugal. I know a guy named Matt Bonner, and Matt Bonner, he played for the Spurs, was one of the more frugal guys you'll ever meet. I mean, wore flannel shirts, always was looking for Subway shops, was looking for used cars, right? And I would think that Matt Bonner still has a lot of his contract money left. Would you advise that young players, even coming in with way more money ahead of them, be frugal in their first few years?
For sure. There's no urgency. There is certainly, everybody should take a moment to celebrate and get that thing that they've dreamt of. But
The
there's
Benz
no
or
urgency.
Bentley.
Be patient. It's whatever it might be to some degree. Maybe you start with the baby Benz. I don't know. But I do think, going back to the CEO point that you made earlier, the average S&P 500 CEO in 2022 earned $18 or $19 million. These players, the top NBA draft picks will earn, $10 million a year, in that kind of 30 to 40 range over their first contract. So, but we also understand that for many players, the length of their career is going to be relatively short. So they're not going to have that 20 years of annual earnings that a CEO might have. And so when they're thinking about their career path, my perspective is, yes, you should be frugal at the beginning of your career, like anyone should, as you're learning and growing, and have a vision of turning up the risk and the growth opportunity over time. We don't think that people should be too conservative. I just want to sit in cash, because you can actually lose money in that strategy if inflation is high and interest rates are low. So we want our clients and our players to be thoughtful and learn how to turn that risk up and down over time, but you don't need to do it all in the first year on the first contract. And I think there's been a cultural shift. You've seen it, like just talking about some of the guys that you've referenced. There is this awareness that this is a grand opportunity to create a lifetime of wealth and create a legacy, and to be frugal, and to be thinking about things that don't go to zero in value in terms of some things that you can just purchase is a wise way to start.
Yeah. Sure. Well, listen, I don't want to waste this time and not pick your brain, because these athletes now, they're coming out in a very interesting period of the market, right? Inflation is still high, although we see some numbers coming down, but it is still up there, right? I mean, a lot of people are still priced out of the housing market, and I know these guys probably won't be. Anything that you would advise them to do when looking at the market, saving their money right away, what would you advise them to do with that first paycheck after you splurge, after they buy the baby Benz, right? After they, pop the bottle, get the nice suit, right? And go, and what would they do with that first paycheck when it comes to maybe having to save, pay off college tuition? Like, what would you do with it?
Yeah, I think the first thing to do is understand what you actually have. So everyone will see the headline, someone's contract is, $40 million, $10 million a year. What we say to the guys is, great, everyone thinks you have 10 million. You actually have 5 million to spend over time, after taxes rather. And so if you were thinking, I'm going to spend $1 million a year, well, if you have $10 million, that's 10%, that's one thing. But if you actually have $5 million to spend, and you want to spend $1 million, that's 20%, that's very different. And so start with understanding what you actually have and creating a plan and a budget. Everybody hates the word budget, but some guidelines. And one of the things that's important to do is try to put it on paper. And one of the exercises we have with our clients is we'll illustrate, here's your line of wealth over time. And if you have a plan that's frugal, and you spend at a certain dollar amount. But if you want to spend $1 million a year, your line is downward sloping, and you're going to run out of money at some point. And so the first thing that they need to do is think about how they're going to build a diversified portfolio to help them grow, because they do have very long investment horizons, but at the same time, protect an amount of their wealth that they can rely on for the unexpected.
Yeah. Derek White of the Boston Celtics, a very good friend of mine, covering him with the Spurs. One of the first things he did, paid off his college tuition. And I thought that was great because college tuition that's a monster bill, and he paid it off. He was smiling. I was like, damn, I wish I could do that too. But would you advise that as well? I mean, a lot of these players probably don't have that because they get scholarships, but there are some who will get drafted or maybe, sign free agent contracts as undrafted guys who, when they get that money, you would advise pay off that college tuition, get rid of that debt?
It really varies. It varies on the player, where they're drafted, expectations. Not all debt is bad debt. I mean, we just came through a period of time where you could get a mortgage for less than 3%. And so now it's twice that, at least, to get a mortgage. And so
I missed it. I'm sad.
Did you miss that opportunity?
I missed the opportunity. Yeah. I should have had you as my private wealth advisor. That's why.
Come on. Where's your team?
Yeah. I got to put a better team around me.
Yeah. You got to pick a better team.
Yeah.
You want to be mindful of the debt. And a conversation we always have is, should you rent for the first year or should you buy? For most people, renting makes sense because you don't know where you're going to be over time. But trying to figure out if you are going to have debt, making sure that it's a reasonable amount, and given the interest rate environment, how you want to structure that as part of your bigger plan. So it depends.
Yeah. Well, listen, flashback right fast. You said 1990. That's what I'll go back to, that year. That's when you arrive at Hampton. You wanted to pursue accounting like your dad, right? But you ended up in economics. What was it like when you said, you know what, I'm going to try the economics route and not the accounting route? Like, what did you find that made you stick with it?
So my father was an accountant, as you said. I was able to earn a little extra cash by doing taxes for fellow students at Hampton. And then I worked at an accounting firm, one of those.
Wait, you did taxes in college for people?
It's so much easier than you think. Damn,
where were you at all my life? I needed a tax person like too.
1040 easy form. You can do it, I promise you.
Yeah.
And so
I use TurboTax, but like I said, I got to get you.
There you go.
Yeah.
But then I had my first finance course and my economics courses, and I thought, okay, the world fits together in this way. And I just felt as though the opportunity to have a more significant impact in helping people really protect what they've spent their life earning was really important to me. So I pivoted and went into the field of Wall Street and quickly found my way to private wealth management, which is where I've spent my career.
Yeah.
So it's been the one thing that I have thought is the most unique opportunity to do one of the things I'm passionate about, which is helping people in markets that I love being part of, and helping with strategies that not everybody has the insight or the proximity to. And so that's been how I have been focused on building a career and trying to add value to our client base.
Yeah. And so in college, you're doing these taxes for people, right? You're building your name on campus. You're the tax lady, and you graduate, and then you go over to JP Morgan as a summer intern, right? It was back in 1994. What did you learn in that period before going to Goldman and being and excelling where you are now? What did you learn in that period as a summer intern that motivated you to keep going?
A bunch of things. One, I learned the power of teamwork. Two, I learned the value of learning from others around you to help inform a path. And lastly, it's the place where I saw that being an advisor was the clear path for me. And being in a place where you do have a high caliber of people working really hard. This was, many years ago. JP Morgan was, before many of the acquisitions that they've had, still a great company, of course. But it was, for me, the ability to turbocharge learning. And this industry is all about learning. The world changes every day. What matters in our clients' portfolios could be happening halfway across the world. And if we want to be good advisors, we need to know what's happening in China, what's happening with the supply chain, what's happening with oil prices. So being able to earn the trust of clients to help them navigate markets so that they can spend their time doing the things that they love to do, is what I figured out while I was at JP Morgan. And that's what sent me to Columbia Business School on a path to becoming a private wealth advisor.
Absolutely. And now you're at Goldman. Again, 23 years there. Very impressive. The biggest thing you've learned in this industry? I mean, 23 years at one spot, you have to have some gems. What's the biggest one? What's the best advice that you've kind of gathered and that you still kind of give today throughout your years at Goldman?
Oh, there's so much I've learned from people around me. And we right now have all of our summer interns. They just arrived.
Right. Do you see yourself in them? Like, I was one of y'all.
Barely. It's like deep back in the cracks of my brain. But you know what I love is the curiosity.
Yeah.
And I think staying curious and finding a way to allow that curiosity to light a fire around things that are interesting and that you're passionate about has been one of the things that has kept my career at Goldman so interesting, because I work at a place that is very entrepreneurial. I raised my hand to the global head of our business and said, I think we should start a business that is more focused on sports and entertainment industry individuals. And we were able to do that. And that's one example of how so many businesses within the firm have gotten started. Our clients come to us, they have a problem, and we use the resources of the firm to help solve it. And that often leads us to create a strategy, a business, a priority that's focused on how can we be better for clients and give them advice and access that they may not be getting as completely as they could or should.
Yeah.
So it's been, a wonderful journey in that way.
Absolutely. There might be somebody, a young black woman or person of color that walks up to you and they see this interview and they say, hey, you're Nicole from Goldman Sachs. And they say, hey, what is it like being a black woman in that industry for so long? What do you tell them?
It's a privilege. I have over the past 20 years rather, seen the diversity of our leadership change. There are still, I was the first black MD, managing director of my business. I was the first black partner in my business. And I wanted to be the first and not the only. And so for me, it's been really important to make sure that I spend a lot of time bringing others around below and around me up, so that when we look around any given table, that table looks like our clients, that table looks like a place where different people can come to get the best advice and service. And so I have a great group of fellow black partners and fellow black leaders within the organization, and together we collectively continue to challenge and lead the firm to be better. We've made a lot of progress, but we're not where we want to be. And that group gets bigger and bigger every year. And so super proud to be part of the work that we're doing to impact communities and change the landscape of what it looks like to be at Goldman Sachs.
Through all those years as you were navigating your career, and I found myself at times having to talk myself out of it, but have you ever experienced imposter syndrome?
I have, for sure. I mean, my very first, I just remind myself that, I come from a very faith-oriented family. My father and my mother always kind of taught us that we were as smart and capable. Actually, we needed to be more smarter and more capable than others to get the same opportunity. And so when I find myself questioning that, I remind myself, that it's a privilege that I get to be in this room, and that my voice is as fair and as present and necessary as any other voice. I take the fact that there aren't a lot of people who look like me as an opportunity to think differently, to give access and voice to people who may not be in the room or at the table. So whenever I feel like an imposter, I remind myself, if not for me, then speak on behalf of others. And so it's an opportunity that I try not to take for granted. And if it seeks into seeps into a conversation or into a thought, I have lots of examples of people who came before me who figured it out, and I should just like get it together and move forward.
Yeah. A few more things. I'll let you bounce here. Your CEO, David Solomon, was at one of our Forbes events this past week. And,
Okay.
I'm listening. Great conversation. And, he's a well-known name. And so I ask you, if you had to describe him in one word, what would it be?
Passionate.
Why passionate?
He's passionate about our clients first and always. He's passionate about building a firm and growing a firm that can be nimble and innovative in relating to client needs and interest. And he's passionate about our people. And it shows up in any conversation you'll have with him across a variety of topics, and it informs his leadership style, and it informs us as the partnership on how to make sure that the businesses that we're leading reflect the passion that he so vividly articulates. And so it's been wonderful, I think, for the firm to come together. He's been very focused on what we call 1GS, which is saying if you're a client of the firm, you should have access to all parts of the firm, whether you are an institution or an individual or an organization. The firm is yours, and it's our job to figure out how to bring whatever you need from anywhere in the firm to you as part of the advice and service we offer. And he's been super passionate about that.
And maybe I need to open up a checking account or something at Goldman Sachs. Y'all do those? Like, can we get something in there? Because I want access to the
I don't
firm.
think I can solicit on the air. I don't know how that works, but
Well, I said I want the checking account, but that's all right. I'll check it out on my spare time so I can get access to the firm. We have a platform.
Text me afterwards.
There you go. Listen, you're going to do my taxes next year, right? I know that for a fact, right? And I know I got to surround my team be better so I can take advantage of the better housing rates the next time. So, but we have a platform we call Forbes BLK, and that is a platform that we're definitely trying to highlight more black executives and more black storytelling when it comes down to just the business sector as a whole. And one of the key areas that community is interested in is the financial literacy side. When you hear the phrase financial literacy, what comes to mind?
That's the wrong word. That's the first thing that comes to mind. And I think anyone who is trying to get better at anything is on a journey. And we think about it as a journey. And for all of our clients, whatever their history is or experiences, again, most of them have started this journey in a place that wasn't fundamentally focused on the skills they'll need over time. And so we do a lot of education. We were fortunate to be chosen to do education for one of the major professional sports leagues. And when we're having those conversations with clients and players, you're seeing over time how they are moving down this journey. And so the players who are rookies, and we're talking to them about the path forward, are learning from those who are more experienced. They are getting advice. They're understanding with greater clarity from their peers and their teammates, with advice and perspective from those with experience, how to set the right stages of the journey, what they need to learn along the way. And so when I hear that term literacy, I think it's really about putting players and putting individuals on a course so that as they progress down that journey, they're picking up a lot of the tools and the education they need along the way. And I'm so happy that you all are doing this. I mean, Forbes is such a fantastic brand with a credibility that is not questioned. And so I think taking brands like yours and others that exist around the world to have a voice in helping people along that journey is really important, and that's what we've tried to do at Goldman.
Yeah, if literacy is the wrong word, what's the right word?
There are several. I mean, you can talk about it as financial education. You can talk about it as financial journey. You can talk about it as a bit of an enlightenment. And so I think literacy suggests that there is, it kind of diminishes in my opinion, the breadth of the work that can be done and the speed of the work that can be done. And so I think that it often suggests that to me, it helps, it suggests that you're questioning capability in a way. And I think that at least in the experiences that we've had, and every player is different, but if you think about someone who has put in the work that it takes to become a professional athlete, they're pretty disciplined, they're pretty ambitious, and they have to be students because you can't get to that place without being a student. And so that's how I think about it. I think about this as really a journey around education for really capable people who are learning something new.
I'm glad you said journey. I love that word, financial journey. I'm going to try my best to start calling it financial journey and not so much financial literacy. On that journey, I remember talking to an NFL player, Nnamdi Suh, and he said that one of his favorite pillars on that journey was credit building, right? He found it very interesting, the fact that he can open up a credit card for his young kids, and I didn't even know that, at a certain age to start building that credit. What is your favorite pillar of the financial journey? See, I caught myself already. Journey.
I like it. There's so many pillars. One that I think we have spent a lot of time educating around is philanthropy, because so many players have a sense of wanting to give back. They want to be part of the community. So many people have supported them. A lot of our clients want to make sure that they take people along with them. And so the philanthropy pillar is one that is part of the strategy. So if in your wealth, you're going to have a portion that you keep, there's a portion you're going to spend, there's a portion that's going to go to taxes, and there's a portion that can go to charity. And so if we can bring those pieces together and help people think about donor advised fund versus foundation, how to make an impact around things in a really a strategic way, then that's an important part that fills the need that a lot of our clients have to give back. And we like to just do it in a way that maximizes the impact they can have. So that's one of the pillars I enjoy.
Philanthropy is, right? And so we want to make the money, save it, and then give it away, right? Or we want to give it away in a charitable, in a charitable way.
In a tax efficient, charitable way. Yes.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said the word tax efficient. Okay? Glad you said that. Listen, NIL. Anything that you like about it? It's, people ask me all the time, are you covering it? Are you covering it? I said, it's still the Wild Wild West. I'm still waiting to see. What do you like about it so far? What don't you like about it so far?
Yeah, we are also waiting to see. I think it's it's evolving very quickly. Yeah. But we are seeing real numbers. I mean, some of the individuals that are active in the space, they're earning real income, and I'm glad to see that they're earning income, because that so much of their presence and the work that they're doing, they can get recognized for it and compensated for it. So I think from a big picture perspective, participating in some of the wealth that you're creating is fantastic and advantageous. I do think that some of the same questions that you have to ask as you are earning wealth along your career, this group needs to ask as well. We find that not everybody is thinking about taxes in the right way, and so they're spending what they get. Taxes typically aren't deducted in those situations, and so they're spending it not understanding fully what their tax implications are going to be. So that's one mistake that we've seen people make. And then the other is, signing contracts without really understanding the breadth of what they're going to be asked to do in terms of time commitment, et cetera, or understanding what other limitations they may have. And so there are lots of great firms that are helping young athletes better understand how to navigate the contracts and the legal aspects of the NIL space as well. But very much evolving.
Yeah, it is. It is. A couple more things, I'll let you go. And the first is that if you just said that a lot of NILs, players and even pro players, they don't understand a lot of dynamics because they're busy with their career. Not to say that they don't get it, but they're busy in other areas of their lives. They may not pay attention to it. Grant Hill, one of the Forbes BLK Advisory Council members, said something very key to me years ago. And he said when he was playing, he used lawyers to negotiate his contract, not agents. For me, that was thinking like a CEO. And he said because agents charge fees. Lawyers charge you about an hour, and after they're done, it's over, right? Why I use a lawyer. CEOs don't have agents, they have lawyers. Coming out, right? You have a young player who may not have an agent yet, and he says, hey, should I go with an agent or go with a lawyer? As his private advisor, as his private wealth advisor, what do you tell him? Because that agent fee is money that he's losing.
Yeah, it really depends. I mean, my perspective is that the makeup of the team can change and probably will change over time. And so maybe you need an agent at the beginning, or you want an agent at the beginning, but you don't down the road. Maybe you want a business manager. You don't need a business manager at the beginning, but you want one down the road. And so one of the things that we encourage players to do is to understand that they can pivot at any point and change their team as their needs and their situation changes. And so it's a personal decision. There are great agents. There are great attorneys. It really, really does depend on the player and how they want to approach things and how they find value. So it's a discussion that we would have.
Yeah. Number one's pick is walking into your office. You have literally 2 minutes with him, and he asks you one sentence. You have to answer in one sentence. And he has all this money, and he says, why Goldman? What do you tell him? One sentence, Nicole.
All right. I know. It's going to be a run-on sentence. Come on. We've got the best people in the world giving our clients the most in-depth advice and access to resources around the world that are all positioned to work for their benefit.
Got you. That was and I saw you were counting. That's good. That was a great sentence. That was a good sentence. Last thing, and enjoy the NBA draft, and I hope that a lot of clients come your way out of it. What is Nicole? What is your superpower? What drives you? What do you feel helps get? Is that tool, that trait, that attribute that helps others and helps yourself? What is your superpower?
Listening. I think that if you can listen well enough to what's said and what's not said, then over time you can be an irreplaceable resource to those that are in your orbit. And so I try to listen really well and recall aspects that I think are important to make sure that we protect our clients and allow them to maximize all the things that are of greatest value to them.
Nicole Ross, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much. We have to do this again, right? And we will do it again, at least for my benefit, because my taxes got to get done every year. And I'm coming to you.
I've got like 3 follow-up items from you, just from what I've heard you say so far. So I'll get that over to you.
Absolutely. Appreciate the time.
Nice
Thank you.
to spend the time with you.